In the morning, we did orchestration session today, and where we saw that that is the first place where we connect the live devices, IoT devices, which is the embedded platform. We connect that to the cloud and we do something meaningful with it. For example, you might want to check the values that are coming from the device. You might want to act on the values. If my door is saying open, I want to convert that translation to a message called on and off, and translate that and send that forward to a bulb. All right. And next session, just the previous session, what we said, all that was fleeting data. It used to come in, it used to go out the window to the device, and we were not remembering it. However, for IoT to be full functionality, it's important to what we can say is persist the data, save the data permanently, so that people can come in later and take a look at it and take meaningful decisions based on that data. That's what we did in the immediately previous session, that we not just became a gateway for data to come into the system and out, but we also kept back the data we want and stored it in a database. And we saw how we do it using the Node-RED orchestrator, right? Now, as we saw in the previous session, we have stored the data. The job of IoT partly is done, but IoTs can also help us visualize the data, and that's what this session is about. And once again, we are pleased to have Purva, who's an expert on data and visualization, to walk us IoT data visualization. So Purva, welcome back. I will hand the mic to you. And before that, I think I will put everybody on mute, and then we can continue. So, Patil sir, am I still audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are audible.
All right, perfect. So I will hand off to Purva now.
Hello, welcome back everybody. In the previous session, we have seen about data and about databases. So now we have a pretty good idea what data is and what a database does. So the data that we read from the database or with what we entered in the database, it is just raw information. And while such raw format might be useful for a machine to understand and act upon, it doesn't mean much for humans. For us people, it has to be more meaningful, and for that, it has to be presented in a different manner. Now, this is done through data visualization. Data visualization is the representation of information and data using visual elements like charts, graphs, maps, images, and a variety of other options. This makes it easier for the human mind to comprehend the data and makes it easier to identify trends, patterns, and outliers. It also gives actionable insights to people. Now, there are many different types of data visualizations. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So this slide here lists about 6.
So we'll go through them one by one.
Yeah, this slide will show about the 6 most common types of data visualizations. The first one here is a table. As most of us are very familiar with table, we have all used Excel sheets. So it has the tabular format has rows and columns, and data is represented in that format. So a table is effective when the precise values are of importance or we need a lookup. Now, one thing to note in case of visualizations is that the visualization options are not really interchangeable. Many times we think that, we can just pick any format to depict anything, but that is not so. There are tables, line charts, bar graphs, or pie charts. So you need to know that each format has a specific purpose. Each serves a specific requirement. And the table is one of the most common ones, and most people are familiar with the table. But the table does not clearly indicate trends or patterns. For this information, for when we have to know the trends or patterns, we need to use a pie chart, a line graph, or a bar graph. Now this one here, the second one is a pie chart. This kind of visualization is useful when the contribution of a subset of data needs to be seen. For example, in this particular example, this pie chart represents the training data furnished by Copper Cloud. It represents about 4,000 participants and about 600 faculty members that Copper Cloud has trained over the past 2 years. Now, just looking at this pie chart, at a glance, you can see that the maximum number of participants have been from ENTC branch. That is a 53% number has been from ENTC, while the mechanical stream has contributed only about 7%. Now, this is something which is an actionable insight. Copper Cloud can use this representation and infer that they are doing well as far as ENTC students are concerned, but they are not doing very well as far as mechanical students are concerned. They need to get more mechanical students involved, because after all, the mechanical industry or mechanical students now are going to be the primary consumers of IoT systems. So it is really important that they know what IoT has to offer. For that, they need to reach more and more mechanical people also. So this was just an example. So such a pie chart tells a subset wise contribution of data, and we can infer a lot of important information from this. And if you look, if the same data was presented in a tabular format, you would not have been able to see this trend. It would just give numbers, X student ENTC, Y student mechanical. It would never have shown this trend of say 53% ENTC and 7% mechanical. So this is where pie chart comes into picture. The next type of visualization, the third one here, is a line graph. Now we are all quite familiar with this type, especially those of us who are tracking COVID numbers on a daily basis. This type of graph shows the same quantity changing over time, like rainfall over different years, or number of students in a course each year, or as I said earlier, the COVID cases per day. So a line graph depicts the changing quantity over time.
Yeah, and just a slight side note from myself, Abhijit, is I'm happy Purva mentioned the COVID numbers, because you may have noticed that people are very interested in numbers. For the first time in many years, we are seeing people take such an active interest in statistics, which is outside of elections and cricket, right? So because, and there's a good reason for it, that outside of the medical fraternity, the rest of the world is fighting this pandemic on the data battleground. All right, all of us understand the numbers, all of us take decisions based on our daily lives, based on what are the numbers of previous week, that maybe we'll have a lockdown, maybe the lockdown will lift, should we go shopping this week or should we wait for next week because the situation is worsening. So after many years, we are seeing that data science is becoming part of people's everyday lives, right? And that itself proves how important any kind of data is to even, general people in everyday lives. So thanks for mentioning that, Purva.
Okay, so the fourth one here is a bar graph. Now this is quite similar to a line graph. In fact, it can also be used for the same purpose as line graph, but it is more useful when comparing similar quantities in the same category. As an example, say average marks scored by boys versus girls over the years needs to be tracked. So this kind of bar graph is useful for that. Another example is the number of American tourists versus European tourists visiting a place. So the place is the common denominator, and you want to compare how many of the tourists are American versus European. This kind of information can be very easily presented using a bar graph. The next one here is a heat map. Now, heat map is a graphical representation of data using color coding to represent different values. The scale used in these is color based, where one end of the spectrum shows the lowest values and the other end shows the highest. The example here shows the COVID heat map of United States. The green areas indicate safe zones, the yellow ones are moderate, the amber or orange ones show the approaching danger, and the red zones are those which are already in a crisis. Now, such a representation is useful in many ways. For example, here it can help health authorities to take informed decisions regarding medical supplies, where they are needed the most, where they should have the maximum availability of hospital beds, public awareness, even lockdown and curfew measures. Such kind of decisions can be taken very easily if an entire snapshot of the situation is available to view. So this was about heat maps.
Right, and particularly we have been using heat maps for a long time. And see, the as Purva said before, the prime reason why visualization is used is for decision making, give actionable data. And as soon as somebody sees the red spots on the map, people are going to forget other things and focus on the red elements. So it makes it much easier for you to focus on the things that are more important and urgent. right? That is why these different kinds of visualizations exist.
Okay, the last one here is a picture overlay. Now this is a highly pictorial representation of the data. This one here shows a bridge, and there are two values mentioned against the pillars of the bridge, which are the strain values. So this is showing a real-time picture or real-time situation of the strain that is on the two pillars of the bridge. It is very easy to understand. So at a glance, people can know what points are being referred to. They don't have to calibrate anything. They don't have to look at some other picture and a data value. The data value is superimposed right on top of a picture. So it is absolutely clear. There is no chance of ambiguity. And the value is changing. We can see it in real time. This is just a picture, but the actual representation can show the changing values in real time. I think we have an example later on in Grafana, right?
We do have an example,
Yeah.
and the good part is most of the times why we have requested Purva to show all these things, because this is what is easily doable. And while we are talking to clients, many times people are also not aware of what is possible, correct? And the moment we show this in front of their eyes, they want this like right now, correct? That's the power of this value, because it's very easy to see the value of this particular kind of chart or a visual, that immediately people know that yes, this is something I want in my life, right? So, and that's what has been happening. So as Purva said, we will be showing a live dashboard, the kind of things that we are producing for people using visualization.
Yeah, so there are a lot of tools available for visualization. These are the modes or formats of visualization. There are n number of tools available on the market, even open source and free, available for use to create different types of visualizations based on the data that you need to present. The most popular among them is Grafana. We'll be shortly giving you a demo on the same. So I have been working in data science for a long time, and I have never seen a more effective tool than Grafana for visualizing data. It is a very, very powerful tool. And when we show the clients the dashboards that we create using Grafana, believe me, they are completely floored. They are so very impressed. And the best part is that it only takes a couple of hours to create a dashboard, a very impressive dashboard. As long as the data is there, creation of dashboards is just a matter of minutes. And I'm really happy to see here that AIT and Copper Cloud is bringing Grafana and telling people about Grafana and showing this into this FDP. So can we bring up the Grafana screen?
Yeah. This one? Yeah. Okay, so let me just share this one.
So you want to give the demo first, or first go through the...
Oh, we can just mention this is what we did in the last session, and then we'll go and talk about the dashboard.
Okay. Is this on?
No, it's not on. We'll show that. Okay, let's switch it on.
So this dashboard we just created during the lunch break. This dashboard shows the representation of that distance sensor that we created in the previous session. It is showing again, as it is not a time series, but it is showing the graph in terms of time. So the x-axis shows the time frame 207, 208, 209, and the y-axis is the actual distance that is sent by the sensor. There is nothing in the last 5 minutes, so you have to increase to...
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So let's zoom this in a bit.
Yeah. So this is what the graph looks like. The sensor is sending the distance reading based on time, and the time field is coming from our last updated field that we entered in the database table. Is this on?
Yeah, I think the Node-RED piece might be
No, but you
switched off.
zoomed it, right? So that thing will not
true.
work.
Right. Let's go back to. I might have switched off the Node-RED thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just a second. We are just trying to get fresh data.
All right. So if we go back to the dashboard, yeah.
Yeah. So now we just turned it on, and now see if you can see in real time the data is starting to come. Can you show the camera here?
Yes.
So, is it on?
Yeah, the camera is on.
Okay. So as I change the position of my hand, you can see the graph actually changing. It is showing the data in real time. I think that one reading is out of bounds,
Yeah.
that's why. But yeah. So this is a real time graph. It is actually showing the distance currently. So this is the power of Grafana. We just created this dashboard in a matter of minutes. In the first session, we created the table. We started sending data into the table. And now we can see this represented in a graph for users to see. The user need not go anywhere near the database. This is all that he needs to see, which is the farthest distance, which is the shortest distance, and that is all there in a snapshot.
Right. And what we'll do is we wanted to show you the outcome of this session. By the end of this session, you would all have learned that how do you create this kind of dashboard using Grafana without any lines of code being required. All right. So I think we'll put this camera back, and we'll switch it off. Right. So cool. Let's go back to the deck. All right. Thanks very much, Purva, for that nice introduction to Grafana. So we wanted to show you what we are trying to build in this session, but that's just one thing. We will also show you some live dashboards that we have been creating for some of our clients, and you'll just see the variety of what all you can do with it. All right. But in a nutshell, this is all about hiding away the complexity of data from the users, because people want simple data. People want meaningful data. People don't want thousands and thousands of rows in their data. All right. So Purva has mentioned the word dashboard a couple of times, right? What dashboard means in the previous view, what you have seen is individual pieces of visualization. It could be a table, it could be a heat map, it could be a V picture, it could be a pie chart, right? Many times what you need is we need different kinds of dashboard. A management dashboard might look like, you know, 3 or 4 pictures. You want to know monthly production and monthly breakdown of machinery. That is one dashboard, right? Maybe a supervisor dashboard is a dashboard of what all machines are not working today. I don't want to know month, I want to know today, right? If I'm in a college, maybe at HOD and principal level, you want to see a dashboard which shows you the last 5 year trends based on which you can do strategy. If I'm a professor, I want to know how my students have been doing day-to-day basis on a practical. So different kind of audiences might require different dashboards. So you pick and choose, you cherry pick what visualization you need and you put it together in one place. The word dashboard itself comes from the car, where the car may be doing extremely complicated things and it could be doing 1,000 things. But what is necessary for a driver to know when the car is in operation is just 3 or 4 things, right? What is my level of petrol? Is the engine overheating? Is my indicator working? What is my speed? What is my engine RPM? These are only 4 or 5 things we need on the car dashboard. So that's why this thing is called a dashboard. A dashboard shows you the most important bits of data you want to see as a user, right? And all other bits of data it hides away. So that's what visualization does. It lets us create small bits of visualizations, and it lets us put them together and show it in a context of a dashboard. All right. So before we enter into Grafana, and as Purva said, this is one of the most powerful visualization tools we have seen. In the tradition of this entire FDP, it is free and open source, but it is very industry standard. Companies like Toyota and IBM use Grafana on a daily basis, right? And I'm very surprised that when we go and speak to even technology people, many of them have not heard of this tool. Very surprisingly, and people ask us, "How did you find this tool?" Whereas it's a very standard tool for 5 or 6 years. So I'm happy that we are getting a chance through AIT and through the ATAL program to bring this to you, so you can talk about it to your students and with your research partners and show them a better way to do dashboarding. All right. So before we get back into the thick of how do you use Grafana, let's just take a step back and see where we are we started. That's the three. See, throughout this FDP, we have been seeing these building blocks because this is the essential. This is the heart of how we are going about this program. We started very close to the physical layer with the device. Then we did the communication. Then we said, what do you do with the communication? You orchestrate it. With the orchestration comes data. You made the data persistent. And now we are talking about visualization. So a device talks to your cloud through MQTT. There's an orchestrator sitting in the cloud which reads the message, does some thinking, and maybe sends this thing to another device. So I just brought that siren. I really like this siren. I wanted to play it here, but it's such a loud siren that people will think there's fire in this building. So I thought I'll just show it to you, right? So it might send it to a siren. It will save that data in the database. All this we have done till the previous session, and now you will have people outside of your cloud, people who are your clients, people who are your different roles in your organization, people who may be your students, who will access these dashboards using their mobiles, using their tabs, using their computers, or their SMSs, right? SMS is also a piece of information, etc., etc. So this is the complete deployment picture. You have a device, you have MQTT, you have Node-RED, you have databases, and you have visualization. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. Now, let's keep this in mind and let's delve into visualization. Okay, we have already captured the data in the last session. We are already storing it. Every second, a new value is coming into your database. Let's go back there for a quick refresher. We created a table here. Let's see what all values are coming there, right? So quick refresher, select star from the table we created is FDP data, order by record ID so that we see the last value first, descending. DESC. Right, and semicolon, run it, and there are 1055 values in the database. If I run this again, 1062. So every second the data is still coming. Let it carry on, let it do its job. We are going to work on visualization, and what we visualize is basically the data in this database. All right. Let's do one thing, Purva. I think we saw a couple of very high values. So let's remove those values so that our graph, we can see the changes happening. So let's say we delete from FDP data where value is greater than 300, greater than 300. Okay, you might want to put some obstacle at the end so that by mistake it should not go beyond that point, otherwise we'll again have values in the thousands. What happens is if we have 10,000, 15,000 centimeters, what happens is the small little variations we can no longer see. So we're just cleaning up this data a little bit. Okay, and we still have a lot of data here. More than 1,000 values are still there. Great. So almost 90% of the job is done. The remaining 10%, let's try and see how we create different visualizations from this. First and foremost, the simplest, let's delve into Grafana. So let me go back into Grafana and I'll start from the beginning. I log out of the system and log back in so that you can see what's happening here, right? We sign out. All this is running on the same cloud, the same IP address we have been speaking about. I'm going to log in as an admin user. You can create different users. So if you are an HOD, you can create an admin user account. If you want to give it to a class representative, or if you want to give to student bodies, you can create delegate accounts with limited access to it. All right. So all the username, all the user management is easily done using Grafana. So what we normally do is we have the same server serving multiple clients. To each client, we give a different login, and when they log in, they are able to see only their organization dashboard. So the data doesn't mix. Nobody can see somebody else's dashboard, right? So this is what it looks like. Now, when we say let's create a dashboard, what we do is we go here and let's create a small little dashboard for ourselves. Our objective of this dashboard is we don't want to create graphs. Let's start with the tabular representation that Purva was mentioning. All right, let's create a data. Now, the beauty about Grafana is why it is so powerful. it doesn't mix the data with how the data should be presented. Data is data, presentation is presentation. So it gives us two different controls. First and foremost, let's get the data. So we can say go and remember the word query. Is this the right? Okay. Let's remember the word query. Now it expects us to create a query. So that query it can use to bring back data from the database. So I don't want a chart, I just want a table. And I go here and I will feed exactly the same query that we have been using in the other tool, which is select star from FDP data. And we are saying order by record ID. Remember the record ID is the primary key, descending, semicolon. When I do this, when I click here, nothing happens. That's interesting. Let me see where the query might have gone wrong.
Yes. What is that I error icon? What is it? Okay, the visualization, you haven't given a visualization.
Oh, right. See, that's why the expert is always the expert. We have only given the query. We have still not seen, told him how do we want to visualize the data. So it is lost. So the first part is just specify what data you want. All right. Then you say the second tab is how do you want to visualize it. You come here and this is the interesting bit. You get a whole lot of options of how do you want to visualize it. Do you want a line graph? Do you want a single metric? Do you want a speedometer like layout? Do you want a bar graph? Do you want a heat map, the one that we spoke about, right? Do you want the picture overlay that we spoke about? So all the little bits are different kinds of visualization Purva walked us through. These are some of them. And let me again pause for just half a minute. This is just like Node-RED. This is also an open source and free tool. In addition to Grafana, there are people like you and me who are creating really good visuals and they are contributing those widgets here. So if you don't find something here, you'll always be able to add more visualizations that you want. Anything, any kind of visual you want, I can guarantee you will find it here. So for our first example, let's just select the humble table, the row and column visualization. So you can bring your mouse over to the table and say, okay, I want to select this table. And then at the top, you can see the visualization comes. All right. So again, first step, we specify what data we want to see. Second step, we specify how do we want to see this data. All right. And you can do all kinds of things. For example, the record ID, it is in the thousands now. So by default, Grafana shortens it to 1.36K. We don't want it. So what we can do is we just want a simple number. How do we do that?
Get rid of decimal. Go to regex.
Go to regex.
Instead of that, just type out the reg ID.
All right. So you can say reg ID.
Type number and remove decimal points to 0.
Remove decimal points to 0. Right. And from there, you are going to convert it to string. And now, as you can see, that .k has gone and this is coming properly. All right. It lets you do more things. Let's say I don't want the current time format, right? It's not easy to read. So let's try and change the time format. So let's say I want the column which is called last updated. I want it to read timestamp and I want it to take this format, which is much more human readable. All right. So we go back here and this is our first dashboard. Let's save it. I'm saving this dashboard. I'm calling it FDP demo 1. All right. And I save this immediately, just like we saw in the slide. This is your first dashboard. Okay. Just take note of the first record ID 1442. And as I said, the values are coming in every second. It must have gone past 1450 or something. So you can come here and you can say top right. There's a small refresh button there. I'll wait for my mouse to reach there. Yeah. When you click this refresh button, you can see that the reading has become 1464. Okay. You click again and you can see that the reading has refreshed again. That means that it is capable of live updating your dashboard. Now suppose no client is going to keep clicking on refresh, refresh, refresh. So what you can say is you can go here and you can say, please refresh this dashboard for me every 5 seconds. Okay, so every 5 seconds, in fact, 5 seconds is also too much. So let me go back here and also let it refresh every 1 second. Right? And save it. Save. So now I don't have to do anything. Every single second, this dashboard is going to show you new values. Okay, so I'm entirely hands off. We have 1503.
For 1 second option.
Oh, let me select 1 second option. All right, 1503, 1511, every second without me doing anything. This is a live self-updating dashboard. Okay, you can do more things about it. You don't want to see 5 minutes, you want to see the entire month. So it lets you do all these things, because what happens is the clients in production environments want different time periods. 1 month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. So you can arrange all this like this, right? So all nice. Can we change the values a little bit, Purva, so that we can see some variation in the numbers? So we have just brought our hand close and you can see the new values coming in, stuff like that, right? So live dashboard, tabular format, very useful for people who love tables, not very useful for people who want trends. Okay, so how do you get trends out of it? Let's try and create a line chart, which is a time sensitive chart. All right, so query will change slightly, rest of the things will remain same. So let's get that done. Okay, so this is one of my widgets. This is called a widget, one view on a dashboard. Let me resize it a little. Let me add one more panel here. Panel means one more widget. So this is the second visual we are adding to the same dashboard. We can move this around different parts of the screen. Again, query, visualization. I can't emphasize enough, dear professors, how powerful it is to separate these two things. All right. This also means that we can hide the data from people. An entirely different set of skills can create the visuals, more creative people, an entirely different set of people who are data experts can create the queries, and the two don't have to worry about learning the other skill, right? So let's do the same thing, but this time let's create a trend, a chart, right? Once again, we select the right database we are referring to. In this time, we will not say table. Now we want a time series chart, right? Remember, time series databases, anything which is sensitive to the timestamp. And we'll go to SQL. Uh, just a side note, you will see that you don't have to give an SQL, okay? Sometimes it will allow you to do drag and drop because not everybody is an expert in SQL, okay? So you can even drag and drop the query in place. That is why sometimes business leaders don't even need IT teams to build this dashboard for them. They just want the IT teams to store the data in the database, and they don't need to learn this new language. And as I said, I keep emphasizing this point. You might be tired hearing me to say that this is the direction industry is going. People are becoming more and more self-sufficient in terms of technology. Industries wants more and more no code or low code tooling. So even if people don't come from programming backgrounds, nothing can stop them from participating in this technology, right? So the query slightly changes when you want to do time series. I think you have something called, correct me Purva if I go wrong, Unix timestamp.
Last updated.
So what is the field in the table that is giving you the timestamp? We have named it last updated column, right? So that's what is going to give you the timestamp. Uh, Pick this value up as the time field. That's the x-axis on the chart. And the value that we really want to see is called value, right? From FDP data, where I think everything is fine. So that's the only change. Instead of saying key just show me the value, we have said show me value against a timestamp. Now let's see how this works. Okay, let me save this dashboard and see what happens.
I think for some reason again there are the values.
Some high values.
Yeah. So
all right, let's see what happens. So what you can do is you can lift you can lift the sensor and make it point to the ceiling so that we can see the effect it has on the chart. Yeah, so what we are doing is we are now lifting the sensor and pointing it high so that you see a real-time spike in the graph. All right, it is still 500, right? Just lower it again, let the graph go down. Okay, so because there have been some high values come into the data, that's why you can't see too much variation. But if we say I just want to see it for, okay, it's still last 5 minutes, let's say last 1 minute, right? Right. So now if you can change it, we can make that spike happen, Purva. All right, so now since we have lifted the sensor pointing upwards, it is again raising. Okay, and it will only show you data for the last 1 minute because that's what we have told Grafana to give us. All right. Okay, so one moment, let me replace the camera. Okay, so this is what we have done. We have brought one more visualization. This looks nicer. Okay, so you have a table and you have a trend. And trend is very important, as Purva said before, because people want to see what is the maximum, what is the minimum, what made the slope high. People don't necessarily need the exact values, and this is what we have done. Let's, for fun, let's do a few more different visualizations. Let's add one more panel here, okay? Let's create some kind of a speedometer like view, so it will tell us only the most recent value. So that's called a gauge, and let's write a query for this gauge. uh, we need a time series query, right, Purva, for this?
Yeah, it's just a one
Okay.
minute, so I don't think it will matter.
All right, so let's see what happens if we say Unix timestamp as time and value.
Yeah, I think
Max we will do from the visualizations.
okay, so this is
all right, so now what is happening is you are seeing some value here. Now this is not necessarily the current value, and again this indicates the power of Grafana. You can go back and say this is currently showing you the average value of all the readings in the database. You don't want the average, you want the current value. So you can do this. Now as I'm bringing my hand closer, it becomes less. As I'm taking my hand away, it will become more and more. You can indicate that beyond what value do you consider it red. Let's say any value beyond 30 is the danger value. Then this is what it will look. The red line has come all the way here. So your threshold is now different. All right. So let's save this as well. And folks, this is practically just a few of the things that we have seen that Grafana has done for us. There are dozens of different kinds of things you can do. Let me show you what we have been doing over the last couple of years, so it will become clear how all we can using it. So far, just as a quick, if you take a step back, till we started talking about Grafana, we had accomplished writing the data in the database. So that is an essential, that is a prerequisite. As long as the data is there, while we store the data, we don't worry about how it's going to be presented. Now, once we sit across from the users, now maybe Dr. Patil sir asks us to build something for his lab, in which case we will come to him and ask him, so what kind of visuals do you want? And then based on whatever data exists, we will use Grafana to change how the data looks. And that is the power of separating the data from the visual. So we'll leave behind the live data right now, and let me show you some of the visuals we have been working. So it gives you a general idea about what we are talking about. So you can go here, you want to see what all other dashboards exist. You can go here and say, I want to manage my other dashboards. Let's save this dashboard. All right. And let's say I want to go to, there's a client we have been working with called Raj Fasteners. They make automotive parts in Pune, and they have some very specific requirements. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to show you some of the graphs we have been working on. Once again, as ma'am has requested in the beginning, all the capturing of data is an entirely different dimension. That is called data ingestion. That requires your IoT devices to sit on the client's machines, in their campuses, in their homes, in their offices, etc., etc., in their vehicles, right? And the job of those devices to make sure that the database has the accurate data at the right frequency, then the job of the device is over. Okay, this is a second dimension, that what happens once the data is sitting there. Then we come up from an entirely different direction and say, okay, what do you want to do with this data? And that's when we bring up all these things. The two things don't interact except for the fact that one element is storing all that data in the database and the other element is reading from the same database. All right. So let's say, let me go back one whole year, and this is just an example. This particular client wanted to see, production comparison. So as Purva said, this is a comparison. What are we comparing? The production numbers. So machine number 1 has produced 13,500 elements. Header number 2 has produced just about 10,000 elements. Okay. Production by weight. Machine number 1 has produced like 40 grams of stuff. Machine number 2 has produced 45. Header number 1 has created 70 grams, etc., etc., etc. Sorry, this is a million grams. Mg is not milligrams, it is millions of grams. Okay. Then based on what kind of product was created by how much quantity, on such and such a date, there were 22,000 bolts created and 35,000 different kinds of bolts created, and how many screws were created. So you can create this kind of a, remember, time series database when people want to see comparison by time, correct? How much delay happened, right? And different causes of delays. On 3rd February, power press was down because its coil had to be reloaded and the downtime was 24 minutes. On, let me pick another one, 18th February, uh, is the highlight visible there? Yeah. On 18th February, thread roller 2 broke down. The cause was breakdown, downtime of 2 hours and 30 minutes, right? One more, power outage. Let's pick a power outage. All right. So power outage data is being also captured here. 11th March, 4 hours, 10 minutes were lost. 25th February, 2 hours, 17 minutes were lost. 14th February, 4 hours, 10 minutes were lost. And by the time we entered March, we were in lockdown, so we couldn't fully deploy this system. But all of this, there is no human intervention. All this data is coming from the real world through devices we have deployed there. All right. And we come back home, we come to our offices and create these dashboards. We share the URL with our clients, they look at it and they're happy with what they see. So this is one kind of thing you can do. You can present data. Let's see a couple of other things that you can do with this. All right. Although I don't have the live, this is a test environment. This is not connected to the factory anymore. But if I went to the live data, it is going to show you things that we just saw right now. It's going to show you the power status, whether the power is there in their factories or not. It's going to show them how much weight of the material they have created, right? So similarly, different things. This is not connected to anything right now. That's why you're not seeing data. What else we can do? We can create summary reports. I think this is the one we saw, right? Yeah, this is the one we saw. And one very nice dashboard we are producing for them right now is, let me show you that. It's a factory layout. As Purva said, one of the most powerful visualizations is they should feel as if they're standing in front of their factory, even if they are home. So we are working on this. I'll wait for this to get rendered. All right, so this is a very powerful. This is just like the picture you saw earlier on the bridge, and you can see this train. This is the factory equivalent of that. So it's like you're standing in front of the factory. Machine number 1 has produced 22,000 units. Machine number 2 has produced 30,000 units, and then it's broken down. Because it's broken down, it's being flagged in a blinking red light, so people can it can catch people's attention. Machine number 3 is produced 15,000 units, etc. On the right hand side, it will show you different statuses. Green are all right, amber are machines which are under load, red are machines which are broken down. So people really don't need to do a shop walkthrough. All this data live updated will be visible to them on Grafana dashboards. All right. So this is the power of these kinds of tools. And trust me, for all of this, not a single line of code is required. Only thing we need is a little bit of SQL, but that too not too much. All right. Right. So yeah. So this is across 3 different factories. all of that the owner wants to see on the same screen. So which is why we do it using the hard deployment. The hardware deployment could be across different cities or different countries, but on the same mobile screen or on the same Grafana screen, they will see the details of everything. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that visualization means. Um, right, so let me go back to the deck now. I think we have covered what the content from the Grafana was to be. Yeah. Right? All right. So, dear professors, this is where the Grafana part ends. That's not the end of this session. We have a little more nicer things to show you. Because why this session is special? Because see, Grafana part, as you see, the hardest part was getting the data from the outside world into the virtual world. The next hardest part, the little less difficult than that, was to store all that data in a place where you can access it separately. Once those two things are done, as you have seen, the thing that people value the most, meaningful data, that has been the easiest to do. Correct? So that's why the Grafana part was short. But this is a good opportunity for us because this is the last technical building block. From tomorrow onwards, I think the first session is about agile practices, where we are inviting an industry experts to talk what agile does for you. Then we will try and get into the customer's mind and try and see, what is the consumer thinking. We as engineers think about technology very differently, and consumers think about technology very differently. So we will cover that. Those are human elements. As far as hardcore technology goes, this is the last session on IoT, which is why it's a good time to step back and bring all of this together, right? So let's just think about it again. We started off with our embedded systems. Before embedded, we looked at the common electronic components, etc., etc. Then we said, I think I have a breadboard line here somewhere. Do we have a breadboard line here somewhere? Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. And then we said, okay, circuits are not enough. I'm going to do a development board. So I put a microcontroller on top of a small breadboard and I did some simple things with it, like connected a sensor to it. And I put up the readings coming up there on the screen, right? The embedded, once it was done, as I said, embedded is closest to the physical world and farthest away from people's uses. All right. Then we said let's why restrict ourselves to showing devices, showing the numbers on the screen. Let's transmit all of this to a cloud. And for that, the chosen protocol was MQTT. And before we touched upon MQTT, we said that let's understand the architecture of communication first. Right? So that's what we did in the sessions afterwards. Once MQTT started working, we said, all right, our communication is fine. Devices are able to talk to each other. If the door opens, it sends on, the light goes on. But it is not enough because the light may want to listen to more than the door. It might want to listen to the car. And the door might want to control more than the light. It might want to send you SMSs. It might want to send you, make sirens work, etc., etc. So there's a many to many mapping, and there is decision making. Maybe the light should come on every time the door opens, but the siren should come on only when I am not at home or only after midnight if the door opens, etc. So there's decision making. Okay, so that's where we brought in what is called an orchestration. Communication and orchestration together form what we call as the postman informally, and formally we call it Enterprise Application Interconnect, EAI. Any distributed system, especially IoT systems, work or don't work because of how good or how bad the communication aspect is. And that's where if you have the communication right and if you have the orchestration right, everything will work in one shot. Okay, so rather than spending time learning to code things properly, we should spend time and we should motivate our students to spend time learning to design and architect the system properly. Coding will work, right? It is the design, it is the architecture which defines the success of the system. All right. Then we said, all right, we are able to take decisions and we are able to control things through an orchestrator. What about data? Devices are happy, people are not yet happy. So people want some persistent data that they can see even after 1 year. So we brought it back, we brought in MySQL, and the devices started writing their data into the database. Correct? We saw different kinds of databases. We started with the most traditional relational databases, but with the changing and unstructured way in which devices keep getting added, we said structured is not always enough. So we spoke about unstructured or no SQL databases. The reason they are called no SQL is because there is no standard language. Because there is no standard structure, there is no standard language like SQL, all right, which happens to be the biggest strength of relational databases, right? And at the end, we say there are also things like time series databases, which are especially useful for IoT projects, where every data element needs a timestamp. In a banking transaction, you need a timestamp when somebody transferred money, etc. Now people are not going to transfer money every second, but an IoT device is going to transfer data every minute, every second, at times every few milliseconds also, and there will be thousands of such devices. So timestamp is a necessary need of any IoT system. All right, now once we have everything in the database, the storage part is done. This is called ingestion. The physical world is feeding data into the virtual world. That process is called ingestion. We are consuming that data in IoT parlance, right? What is left is how do we get this data in a meaningful format to people, because people don't like too much data. People want ready-made cut and dried analysis. People want trends. People want pictures. People are much better at seeing patterns than they are at seeing rows and columns of data. We saw the different kind of visualizations which are most common, and then we says how do we do this? Should we code it? No, we don't need to, because they are very standard open source industry popular tools like Grafana, which is what this session has been about. And I think what should remain with us is this chart, which shows all of this in action. All right. And just to make it crystal clear, what we have done is we just took during the lunch time, we spent like 15 minutes and created a small sorry, yeah, that needs to be connected. We created a small showcase, so it might look a little messy to you, but I'll point out the different parts to it, where all of this we will be using. So let me switch off the stuff we have been showing so far. There are two parts to it. There's a door we have connected through which we are going to try and control the light. When the door opens, the light should shut on or switch on. When the door closes, the light should turn off. Similarly, there's a distance sensor there. This is a good example of your water control systems. So you have a sensor here, and this is the level of water. So as the level of water rises, you want the motor to shut off, and as the water falls below the sensor, you want the motor to turn on. So we have put a very small DC motor there to indicate the principle, right? And at the same time, we will be showing you how to do these things also through the mobile phone, right? So orientation camera. Where is the JSON bit? Oh, I have not deployed it yet, basically. All right. So let's take a very quick look at this showcase we have created for you. I'm going to put it up on the camera. Yogesh, can you just point out the different devices that we are showing? Yes. So pointer. Oh, you can just point it out. Yeah, so that is the, okay, I'll speak out because Yogesh is a bit farther away. That is the distance sensor. These are all different devices that are not really talking to each other. So that's the distance sensor that we have been using. And we hope that using that distance sensor, we'll be able to control the motor device, which is yeah, see how far this cable will reach. Don't pull too hard. Yeah, show it from here. So the motor device is actually an entirely separate embedded unit. It doesn't talk to the sensor. It talks to the sensor through MQTT and Node-RED. All right. So this is one subsystem. There's a distance sensor. We pretend that it is sitting on top of your water tank, and the small motor is your water pump. And based on what is the level of water, the motor pump will be switching on and off. Right. The second subsystem we have built for you is a light system. Just point out the light, Yogesh. Yeah, so that is the light which is talking to MQTT, and there is the door where Yogesh is standing, which is also talking to MQTT. And can you point out the small sensor? Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a small bump switch. So whenever the door closes, that bump switch signals close to MQTT. And whenever the door opens, the bump switch signals open to MQTT. And we are going to transmit that to the bulb, which is again a thing connected to MQTT, which is going to respond to the door. All right. So yeah, you can bring that back camera so that we show a big picture to everyone. So I need us to see the door as well as the bulb first. Okay. So let's close the door. Wait a minute, Yogesh. Let me also show the MQTT, right? We can see the messages which are flowing through the system. Once again, if the messages are working, everything will work. So we had a bit of a glitch in the previous demos. By mistake, a small 2-second delay had been left in the code, which is why the off command was a bit sticky. But we fixed it now. All right, it's taking some time. No problem, Yogesh, you can close the door. So when the door closes, it sends a command called close to MQTT, and that results in the bulb being switched off. When you open the door, it sends a command called open to MQTT, which results in the light being switched on. Let's do it one more time, Yogesh. Close the door, sensor gets closed, signals the command close, door gets open, sensor gets opened. And once again, this is all real world, this is all real devices, just that they don't look so nice because they are sitting on breadboards. Once you package it up properly, this is a fully fledged IoT system. It was visible enough. The bulb is too bright to be seen by the camera actually. Turn it off. We'll look at it at the end then. Okay, so the next subsystem we will do a quick test that Yogesh is going to change the distance of an obstruction to the sensor when it gets too close. Remember guys, this is entirely different systems that are not talking to each other. This communication is happening through MQTT and Node-RED. MQTT because the sensor unit is sending an integer, right? That integer is being converted to an on or off command. That's the orchestration in place. So whenever Yogesh blocks the path, the motor runs. Whenever Yogesh takes the hand away, the motor stops, which is equivalent to, that's exactly how we are building water conservation systems these days, because ultrasound gets reflected off water surface. It's an excellent sensor for detecting tank levels. All right. Now all this is, we are seeing something happening in the real world. Now let's see how we use it on our mobile phones. Okay. So on the mobile phone, I am going to uh, share my mobile screen once again. Yeah, so in the Node-RED, we are gonna, yeah, correct. No, let this remain for now, because on the mobile we need this to keep transmitting. On the Grafana, we will go to the other device. Okay, so let me see what's the IP address of my mobile phone. We are doing 192. I think the browser has got stuck a little. Just give me half a minute, guys. Is this working? Sometimes if I'm leaving the tab idle for a bit, then it is getting going in sleep mode these days. All right, so I am going to say 192.168.1.115. All right, so let's see this thing happening again. But this time, can we have the camera point to the light again? Yeah, and now I'm going to switch off the door because we don't want this command coming from the door anymore. So far we have been seeing real life events like door opening and closing. Let's see an equivalent of that on when people try and control it directly from their mobile phones. All right, so I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to show you a similar screen to what we had seen yesterday. And I'm going to show you the camera as well, right? So, right. So light on and light off are two devices. When I say lights on, I send a command out, light is already on, right? When I say light off, I send a command and the bulb responds. Okay. because you are sending on and off from the mobile phone. Now the command is not coming from the door, the command is coming from your mobile buttons, which is an excellent example of the same device responding to different triggers, right? Similar thing I can do in addition to the water level controlling the motor, I can give it a person override by saying, do you want to change the motor state? On, wait, where is it? Hold on, I think I have not yet enabled it. Yeah, so here is where you can say, now it is no longer a distance sensor that I want to control. I want to control a motor. All right. And the motor needs to control this device. And instead of on and off, open and close, I'm going to look for on and off. Sorry. Oh, okay, both are motor, right? In that case, it should not really be required. Let's see. Let's make it run. Hmm? Okay. Yogesh, you have this running on your mobile phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just switch it on from your mobile phone. Yeah, keep the focus on the motor. And in the meantime, I'll show you at all this while there's a distance sensor which is transmitting data onto the queue. So this is what you are seeing, right? Yogesh, get your hand. Yeah, right. So instead of Grafana, if you want to look at a real life thing, then you can do it this way as well. All right. Hold on. Yeah, so a lot of things together. There's a mobile phone, there's a person, there are physical things like doors and water levels, etc., controlling your devices. There are dashboards on your mobile phone. There are dashboards on the Grafana screen. Let me go there. So this is basically a heavily distributed system, and what we have just done is we have looked at what it all looks like to the user, and this is how we create things using the industry tools in different formats. All right. So with that, let me. All right. Okay. Great. All right. So this is how we use different triggers to do different kinds of things. Okay. You can switch it off, Yogesh. I think it's getting AC. That's why it is 50 hertz. Yogesh, switch off that means.
This one?
Yeah.
No, DC.
All right.
Oh, it is DC. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So let's go back to our deck. Yeah, we are done with this. We are done with the camera. So with that, I think this session has not just been the last bit of technology. This has also been an opportunity to pull all of this together. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the technology bits. It's not the end of IoT. We have a lot more to talk about. But if there are any questions on the technology bits, me and Purva will be very happy to field those questions now. So Dr. Patil sir, I'll hand back the mic to you.
Yes, Abhijit, thank you very much. So I request the participants to ask any queries they have.
Okay, good evening, sir. Am I audible to you? Good afternoon, rather.
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. The few things I want to ask you. The first thing is that I just want to ensure that the bump sensor that you have connected, it is basically connected to your node MCU. Is it so?
That's correct, sir. what we have done is, let me show. I'm going to disconnect this thing now. If you can follow my camera, this is a Node MCU here, right? Oh, okay. So we can use that camera as well, right? Yeah. So Purva, if you can help me point that camera to this device here. So far we have been using, a distance sensor to point to a node MCU. In this case, we are connected the bump switch to one of the switches, one of the pins of a node MCU, and it's just detecting whether it's connected or not. If it's connected, it is sending open. If it is disconnected, it is sending close. It's as simple as that.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
suppose node MCU get failed, how to check that?
It's a great question, sir. For that, MQTT has given us a very good option. It's called LWT, Last Will and Testament. So this is perfectly one of the reasons why we need something like LWT messages, that if one of our devices fails, or for any other reason, if the device becomes out of touch, maybe somebody has changed the password of the router, stuff like that. All right. In that case, an LWT event will be fired to MQTT. So to give a brief, LWT is like a last will and testament of a person. Since after dying, the person cannot tell us it is dead. So before dying, we write a will that once I am no more, please publish these instructions to my friends. So LWT works exactly the same way. The device, when it is first connecting to MQTT, it says that if ever I disconnect, please do such and such. Please tell such and such a device that I am not connected anymore. So in your case, if the node MCU crashes or fails or cannot connect to internet, an LWT message will automatically be fired by MQTT, and then it will come up to you as an SMS, or on a dashboard you can see, or you can do anything as you like with it.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Keep sending it daily, periodic.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Sir, how to run the Node-RED in mobile phone? Will you suggest the way out? Because while doing the same in my laptop, I need to run the Node.js first, then only I can switch it on to the Node-RED. So it's a long process altogether. So is there any shortcut way of installing the same in the mobile phone?
There are different apps. See, Node-RED is an open source, so different people have created their own versions, and some of them have created an app. So if you search on the Apple Store that please give me a Node-RED app, you will find 2 or 3 apps there. However, my suggestion will be that it will be best, because see, a mobile phone gives you one great benefit, that it is flexible, it is portable. But if you run it on your laptop, you can do much more, like connect it to a database or connect it to a file system, etc., etc. All right. So it will be much easier for you to use if you connect it to your phone. Now, as to your question on it's being complicated, let me just show you something. Just today, I'm getting ready to start a working professionals workshop from today night 6 to 9. So we have given them a document to set up Node-RED. Let me show you the instructions. All right.
Okay, okay,
And
sir.
you will see that how big it is. I'm just opening that document right now. Training engagements, workshops. All right. All right. So we are calling it installation. 2 or 3 tools we want them to install on the desktop. Let me show you. Okay, it's coming up on the shared screen, I think. All right, so this is just 3 pages. First, just tells them to install Arduino software. Second is how do you install MQTT, and third is how do you install Node-RED. So I think this is all. You just have to do these. We have been doing it for many months now, and this works in one shot. If you like, I can share these instructions with you.
Yes, sir, of course.
Sure. So this is we have probably trained dozens of people after they have followed these instructions, and not one of them has had problem installing Node-RED so far.
Hello.
Right? So this works.
Hello.
Mobile,
Okay,
of
sir.
course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mobile is there for flexibility. Raspberry Pi and laptop will give you much more capability in terms of what all you want to do with it.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good
Yes.
afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just it's my request. If possible, sir, then you may also share with me, sir, on my email ID.
What I will do, sir, is I will share it with the entire group.
Yes, sir. Okay, okay, sir.
Right. So to be honest, sir, we at Copper Cloud are full believers in transparency. So if it helps anybody, we are happy to share.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
So what I'm hoping is that once all the questions are done, we have some time left on the clock. Uh, I would also like us to share with you the online, in addition to the videos that we are recording through AIT for this FDP, for anybody whom we work with for training, we also share some online videos of close-ups of how do you build the device, how do you use Node-RED, etc. Because sometimes just recording that meeting may not convey. So once all the questions are done, I will request Purva to take us through one example flow on that knowledge management system. So any more questions?
Okay, sir. In case if we want to join your workshop, so what are the formalities that we need to do? Will you share some information regarding that?
Absolutely, sir. There is not detailed formalities. We do about 1 or 2 workshops every month. Sometimes it's a student workshop, sometimes it's a faculty development, sometimes it's for all working professionals. The faculty are also most invited. So we normally publish links. What I'll do is whenever such events are happening, we are starting one just today. The next one we are starting on 18th and 19th December. So I'll be happy to share the registration link with our group, and whoever wants to dive more deeper into IoT is welcome to join, and then you'll be able to do hands-on and everything as well.
Yes, sir. It will be very helpful for us. Sir, please share that link.
Definitely, sir. Most welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So if there are no more questions right now, if Dr. Patel, sir, if you allow me, I'll take just 2 minutes to walk everybody through the online study material.
Okay, just 1 minute. Before that, I want to convey uh, that AICT has sent us a letter yesterday, which says that we would like to express our thankfulness and gratitude for the recent achievement of ATAL Academy to get recognized in World Book of Record. To get recognized in World Book of Record for conducting these FDPs, 1000 FDPs, thereby training about 1 lakh faculty members in this year 2021. And we wish to inform you that the head of institutions, coordinators, resource persons, officials involved, FDP officials involved to conduct ATAL FDP and participants are part of this World Book of Record, London, UK. So therefore we congratulate you with thanks. So congratulations to all of you once again for this. Thank you.
So let me also add on Copper Cloud's behalf, congratulations, sir. I have taken some sessions with some of the other ATAL based FDPs also. This one, of course, has been the most in-depth technically, but my congratulations to everybody. I think it is a really unique and a very noble initiative, and we ourselves feel very close to the academic community and the faculty community through these sessions, and we teach as well as we learn through these. So my thanks, and on behalf of my company, my congratulations to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. You can continue, Abhijit.
Right. So I will request Purva has been very instrumental in helping us create these very high quality study materials. So I'll request Purva to take us through some of the training content that we are going to make available to everybody who is here. Yeah. So let me log out first.
So now that all the building blocks of the IoT system have been covered over all these sessions, right?
Yeah. So all the technical blocks are all over.
The technical blocks are done, and participants, of course, will share all the videos of these sessions, and those can be referred to for a recap. In addition to these videos, Copper Cloud has its own learning management system as well, and I have been working with Copper Cloud for some time on creating content for this learning management system. It has a lot of detailed material, study resources, material, and over all the topics that have been covered so far in this session. And Copper Cloud is giving access to these resources for everybody who is a part of this FDP. And you have not shared that screen, I think. Oh, it's yeah. So we have there's just one user ID password created.
Sorry, sir, your voice is breaking down a bit. Can you repeat? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
Abhijit, you are audible. You can.
Okay.
All right, all right.
Yeah. So there is a lot of training material, videos and tutorials on this system. We have created one user ID password for everybody in this batch. So Abhi is just logging into the system. These credentials will be shared with you along with other training material, whatever we are going to be sharing. So it's the same. Once you log into the system, the screen that is coming up will be your landing page. Is your caps lock or something?
Not really. IFW-learner, right?
Yeah.
IFW-learner. Yeah.
So it's yet to come.
So IFW stands for IoT Foundation Workshops.
Yeah. So this is the screen that you will see. This is the landing page, and there is the one course here which is for the foundation workshop. You can click on the I, which is the information page, which will show you the entire catalog of tutorials. Now there is no need to definitely follow the pattern or in sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go to any particular topic that you need. For example, if you want to just recap on MQTT device to cloud communication, that is tutorial number 7. You can just directly jump to it. 7.
Yeah, I've just clicked on 7.
Okay. And it will take you to the video and tutorial. It's a combo video, some tutorials, some screenshots, and it gives a very picture and a detailed close-up of whatever hands-on that was shown in this session, which may not be very clear in the session videos, but you can refer to these videos here for a detailed, and you can pause it when you need and just follow along if you're doing your own hands-on. If you go to minute 2:20 or something, it will. So this is I'm just playing a small clip from the video which shows breadboarding. I think
I have switched off the audio because it doesn't translate too well over the network.
Okay. So this is just an example. You can scroll a bit further.
So this is the code recording.
Yeah, I think we can go back to the course catalog.
Won't go with audio?
Too much disturbance.
And I think if we scroll forward, so all the bits that we have seen right now, a little more detailed, little slower at pace, which you can follow along at your convenience.
And focus primarily on the hands-on aspect.
On the hands-on aspects. So let's go back to The catalog.
So just go to
More.
back. You can do more, or there's a drop down arrow that next to the tutorial 8.
Okay.
Yeah. So this again, you can just scroll to any tutorial that you want and just start reading. This is 11 is for example on a Node-RED.
So that's audio plus video plus recording plus everything.
Yeah. Only thing is when you go to the landing page, just be sure to click on the eye icon so that you can see the list of all the available tutorials. Because if you just select play, whatever the previous user had left it on, the cursor would still be there. It will start from there. And that is because there is just one user ID that is to be shared among all participants. So there is no problem about simultaneous access. Multiple people can access at the same time. It supports simultaneous as well as multiple accesses. Just remember to click on the eye icon and then go to the required tutorial that you need to visit.
Right. So I think thanks Purva for walking us through this mechanism. Ever since we had to stop doing workshops on campus or in person, this is the mode we have been doing things, and it's been working well, fortunately. So you are most welcome to join this mechanism and use these videos for your learning. So
you can also send questions. There's a mechanism to send questions here. Other means are also there. You can mention on the WhatsApp group.
So if you get stuck, you can come to the more option and say send message to instructor, which will come back to my team essentially, and with your email ID, and we'll be able to respond to your messages. Or in the near future, I think while the FDP group, WhatsApp group is existing, you can also ask us there. We love to answer questions on IoT.
Yeah, and if you do use this send message option on the LMS, please mention your name because the user ID is common to everybody, so we would not know whose question it is. But if you just mention your name, we'll know who has posed the question. I mean, the answer will be available for everybody to see, but we would just know who posed the question.
Right. So with that, although we have been saying all this transfer of material and thanks, this is not the end of this FDP. We have a lot more ground to cover. This is the end of the technical blocks. Tomorrow onwards, we are getting into very interesting industry practices which help us. As I've been using the word agile for a long time. So we will be looking into agile a little deeper in tomorrow's session. And thereafter, we'll talk about some very human aspects of IoT, like what the psychology of a consumer and how do we prepare our students to become catalysts to pave the way for their organizations to adopt this technology easily. All right. So with that, Dr. Patalswar, I'll hand off mic to you again. And thanks everyone for attending.
Yeah, thank you, Abhijit. Thank you very much for this third day sessions. So I have already shared a link on WhatsApp group for the attendance and feedback. Now Abhijit is going to share the quiz link today. What time you will share?
So I think we'll share it in the next half an hour.
Okay. So you can expect that in next 1 hour or so. And tomorrow we'll meet again at 10 o'clock. So if you have any queries, you can be ready with your queries. We can log in just 10 minutes before and take up these queries and continue with the regular session at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So anything from participants side?
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, when will get the user ID and password for the link of that video material?
Yeah.
Or video material?
So the ones that we have just shown, we will share the URL, username and password onto the WhatsApp group. And I think the ones that this entire session recording, I think that's being already shared directly as a YouTube URL on the group.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.